The story you're about to hear took place in the early to mid-2000s. I'm pretty sure I signed a non-disclosure form or a contract of some sort that says I'm not allowed to discuss anything that happened during my appearance on television. I don't think Blind Date even exists anymore, but I'm nothing if not afraid of legal repercussions, no matter how slim the chance. So, for the sake of this story then, we're going to play a little O.J. Simpson If I Did It. If you don't remember, that's the book where O.J. wrote about the murders of Nicole and Ron from a hypothetical point of view. You know, what it might have been like had he murdered them. Wink wink. That means I'm going to tell the tale of the time I was on a dating show called We Don't Know One Another, but Let's Hang Out for a While like we would if we were on a first date. You can see why that show didn't catch on, such a long, arduous title. Okay, here's the tale. It started at a bar I can't remember the name of in Los Angeles. It was actually torn down years ago, but it was on Sunset Boulevard, and Dane Cook performed there every Tuesday night, I think. I went to see him on his cusp of becoming huge. When his show ended, an attractive 20-something woman approached me with a card. "Would you like to be on TV?" she asked. Keep in mind, I wasn't special. She was handing these out to everyone, like they were flyers for 20% off your next dry cleaning bill. I took the card, went home, and then dialed up the number the next day. Everything happened pretty quickly after that. They wanted me to come in as soon as I could. I think it was even that afternoon. The show was filming non-stop, so they needed new bodies on the production line constantly. It was a conveyor belt, or more apt, a slaughterhouse. I was just one of many head of cattle they wanted to eyeball. I drove to the production office and was put in a waiting room with 10 to 15 other young men. We filled out our intake forms and one by one got called into a back room. While waiting, I noticed that every guy before me was only gone for a minute or two. An assistant would come out, call a name, they'd disappear for that minute, and then the young man would leave. When my name was called, I went into the room and discovered a cameraman, an interviewer, and a backdrop. I stood in front of the camera and the interviewer peppered me with questions. I don't remember any of them, but I do remember the cameraman having to stifle his laughter during my answers. At some point, I realized, hey, I've been back here 10, 11, 12, 15 minutes. Since every other interviewee had been in and out the door in a minute, I had the sense I was doing something right. I was correct. They called me on my way home and asked if I'd be up for filming ASAP. I don't remember exactly when, but it was either the next day or within a couple days. Remember, conveyor belt, just keep banging these episodes out. There was just one problem. I had to get permission from my girlfriend. Yeah, you heard that right. I was in a relationship at the time and didn't want to screw things up. Fortunately, my better half trusted me and said, as long as there's no kissing or hanky-panky, it's cool. She trusted me because I told her the truth. I only wanted to be on the show because it was stupid. If I could make their worst of reel, it'd be funny. If you're unaware, the TV show We Don't Know One Another but Let's Hang Out for a While like we would if we were on a first date was famous for airing dates gone wrong. Fights, drunken silliness, general nonsense. I wasn't interested in finding a mate, I just wanted to be stupid. Back to the matter at hand. On my intake form, I described the kind of woman I was interested in, and more importantly, the activities I would like to do on our date. I remember listing whitewater rafting and skydiving, for example. When it came time to film, I was given a location to meet the crew, and when I did, the producers started right in. "We're looking for a connection. Just get to know her. We want the two of you to hit it off." All right. I was told, we'll call her Cindy. I was told Cindy was waiting for me on a beach and that I'd approach her from behind and introduce myself. they'd get the first reaction from each of us captured for all the world to see. Well, they didn't tell me what not to say, so when I walked up to the awaiting stranger, I said, "Hi, I'm Nathan. I have a film crew with me. Wanna hang out and let them watch?" Cut! Rule number 1, don't acknowledge the cameras. Oops. Well, I ruined the actual reaction from the girl, so we had to film it a second time and pretend. Okay, remember where I said skydiving or whitewater rafting would be fun? It probably would have been. What the show decided Cindy and I should do is to hop on some electric zip scooters and go back and forth on the sidewalk. I say back and forth because we literally had to stay in range of the cameras and the wireless signal of our microphones. Instead of actually riding around, we had to ride back and forth in front of the cameras and pretend we were riding around the neighborhood. It was, to be honest, the opposite of fun. After the scooters, we were put in cheap kayaks and told to paddle around a little bit. Just like with the scooters, we had to stay in range of the cameras and wireless reception. We weren't allowed to have fun, we just had to piddle fart around in front of the cameras. Those get-to-know-you moments out of the way, it was time to hop in the not blind date truck and drive around a bit. Ostensibly, we were driving to dinner, but since the restaurant was only 1 block away, we had to drive in circles to make it look like we were driving somewhere. This is where the trouble really kicked in. Since Cindy and I lacked what the kids call chemistry, the producers felt the need to help us along the way. Cindy and I sat in front, I drove. The producers sat in back and needled the shit out of me. Pre-filming, they had said, "Just talk to her naturally, get to know her." Well, when two people are trying to get to know one another, one topic of conversation is favorites. Your favorite band, your favorite movie, so on and so forth. We started down that path, but the producers kept interrupting us. For example, when I brought up music and she told me her favorite band, they cut film. "You can't talk about that," they said. "Why not?" I asked. "Licensing," they responded. Here's the deal. I may be dumb, but I'm not completely stupid. Their point was, you can't talk about Peter Gabriel because we don't hold the license to any of his songs. To which I countered, no, I can talk about Peter Gabriel all I want. We can't play the radio because yeah, you can't afford to buy his songs for the show, but I can discuss me liking him and his songs. They didn't agree, and we got into a little bit of an argument about it, which was not smart on my part, because you should never anger people who have editing power over how you are presented. After the drive, it was time for drinks, so we had to change out of our beach clothes and into evening wear. Because I'm an idiot, I forgot a belt, so I kept having to hike my pants up. Having the wireless pack for the microphone attached to them didn't help. Basically, I looked like a wannabe gangbanger. Quick aside, I'd like to point out that even in the early to mid-2000s, whenever this took place, I was smarter than Donald Trump. Between takes, and yes, there were multiple takes of things, they would say, "Just act natural." Then they'd counter it with, "We'd like to get you walking into the restaurant again." So, as real as it was supposed to be, it was also very fake. You'd have to walk into the restaurant, they didn't like the angle, so you'd have to leave and walk into the restaurant again. Reality TV is not a documentary. They actively get the shot they want. Anyway, between takes, I would turn the microphone off on my wireless pack. Whenever they'd call cut, I'd reach down and flip the switch. Before grab 'em by the pussy was even a thing, I knew I didn't want them recording me non-stop. This also didn't sit well with the producers, who told me to knock it off. They were actively looking for those behind-the-scenes moments. They would send someone over to turn my mic back on. I always turned the mic back on when it was time to film, but they were pissed they couldn't get a candid moment on tape. One more quick aside. I wanted to get Cindy alone and apologize to her. Yes, I had initially gone in wanting to make the worst of real, but Cindy was nice and kind, and even though I wasn't attracted to her, I didn't want to hurt her feelings and or start a fight with her just for the fun of the camera. I had been hoping to end up with someone on the same page as me. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Back to the date. Our time at the bar was a disaster. By this point, the producers, who were actively angry with me by now for pushing back against them whenever they tried to lay down an edict, and who didn't like the fact I was constantly turning my microphone off, had been needling me for several hours. I didn't get what they were going for until it was too late. Now, I'm fully responsible for my own temperament and actions, but I can also be the, I don't want to say victim, but I'll use that word, of questionable editing. All the badgering the producers did, all the needling, all the picking at me, all the sharp words, not on tape. Me finally losing my temper and going on a mini rant about how I hated everyone and everything, absolutely on tape. Again, I'm responsible for me and I lost my cool. It is what it is. And I can't fault them for wanting to get something dramatic on tape, because drama is inherently more interesting than two people talking. Plus, be careful what you wish for. I'd wanted to end up on the worst of reel, and, well, looks like I was about to. Point is, yeah, I blew up at the bar. I didn't start screaming and lose my temper, but I just lost my cool a little bit. But the date wasn't over yet. After drinks, it was time for the confessional, our post-date thoughts. They put me in a production van and drove me around the corner from the setup so they could film Cindy first. The minutes ticked by slowly. 5, 10, 15, 20. The production assistants started complaining. "What's taking so long?" they asked one another in exasperation. "This usually takes 5 minutes, tops." They started radioing base camp. "Hey, can we come back yet?" 25 minutes, 30, 35 minutes. Somewhere around 45 minutes later, we were allowed to return. It was time for me to film my confessional, and that's where I learned what took so long. The producers didn't want honest answers, they wanted very specific ones. "Would you like to see Cindy again?" they asked me. "Maybe," I waffled. I didn't want to, and I had a girlfriend. But I didn't want to hurt Cindy's feelings and outright say I wasn't interested in her. So, whenever I would answer, they would yell, "Cut." "Okay, we're gonna need you to show some more enthusiasm for her." They had an agenda. They actively wanted me to say I liked her. Our back and forth went on for a long time. They would ask me a question, I would waffle or I would say I wasn't interested. They would call cut and tell me that I did want to go on a date with her. They said she was interested in me. They said, "Hey, come on, you're gonna leave her hanging." Finally, I capitulated. Did I want to see her again? Of course I did. I was madly in love with her. Cindy is my soulmate. I'd marry her tomorrow if I could. Jesus, just let me go the fuck home. When they finally got what they wanted, it was all over. "We'll let you know when the show is going live," they promised. Of the entire day, that is the one lie I didn't appreciate. Sure, I get treating people like disposable garbage in order to get what you want out of them. It's TV, you gotta do what you gotta do. But they never told me when the show aired, which is bullshit. Keep in mind, this is before TiVo, Netflix, and streaming of any sort. In order to record a program, you had to have your handy-dandy VCR set for very specific times and channels. And Not Blind Date wasn't on CBS every Friday at 8 p.m. No, it was syndicated, meaning it aired randomly on random channels. Weeks or maybe even months after filming, I started getting notifications on MySpace. Yeah, that's how long ago this all happened. From people saying, "Hey, I saw you on Not Blind Date." It would be years before someone finally threw a blurry copy of my episode on YouTube, and I was able to have a laugh at the disaster. Unfortunately, copyright laws means even that has been taken down now. But if you go searching for it and find it, let me know. I'd love to watch it again. One final note. I never got my moment alone with Cindy. I never got to apologize to her. So, on the van ride back to my car, I asked the producers how to get in touch with her. "She really liked you, dude," the dickhead producer told me in between sentences where he bragged about having worked on the Osbournes. "You should absolutely call her. Call the production office tomorrow and they'll give you her number." I did just that, and the person on the other line explained, "Cindy said she didn't want you to have her number." At the end of our episode, it shows Cindy proclaiming she never wants to speak to me again, and then me as the love-struck puppy who thinks he's found his soulmate. The joke was on me, and deservedly so. Well, if you're out there, Cindy, and you remember this, I'm sorry. My, as they say, bad. The moral of the story is, if you didn't already know it, reality TV isn't real in the slightest. Watch it for fun, but know you are seeing hyper-edited, non-realistic Hollywood fakery. That is the end of this story. If you found this tale amusing and you'd like to see or hear more of my nonsense, I post a video a day on YouTube and Instagram. If you like the way I tell stories, I have an Amazon author page. You can go buy one of my books. Just search up Nathan Timmel. And if you'd like to learn more about me, you can visit nathantimmel.com. Thanks for listening.